Oh, hey everybody. This is my part 2 of my Debt Elimination Wealth Building Seminar. Now, if you're starting here, I need to tell you that this is a 3.5-hour seminar, and if you start here, you're starting in the middle. So please, if you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch part 1. Otherwise, when you come in here, a lot of what I'm saying won't make sense because you've missed the first hour of the seminar. So I will put a link to the playlist that has all of the videos from the seminar. I'll put one right up here, and I'll put one in the description down below. So if you haven't seen part 1, please go do that first. Here you go, part 2.
Welcome back to part 2 of our Debt Elimination and Wealth Building Seminar. I think that part 1 really kind of opened a lot of eyes to what's possible. And that gave us a rough estimate of when you're going to be debt-free. Now we're going to take a look at a lot more detail. And we're going to work your plan with your numbers, and you will know exactly to the month when you're going to be debt-free. Okay? So we're going back to this calculating your payoff priority page. And right now we have the first 3 columns already done. So now we're going to do column 4. And you're going to look at that and say, well, what does this mean? It's just a number that we're going to use to help calculate the priority that you pay off, so you know which one to pay off first. Okay. So for each one, let me see it here. Yeah, for each one, you're going to take the total balance and divide it by the monthly payment. And you're going to come up with a number, which in itself will mean nothing, but you'll understand it in a minute. So you take the total balance, column 1, and you divide it by the monthly payment, column 3, and whatever that answer is, you put it in column 4. So just go ahead down and work all of those. Everybody understand what you're doing here? You take column 2 divided by column 3, and write the answer in column 4. Okay, how's it coming? We getting close? All right. So we now have column 4 filled out. Now we want to do column 5, and this is where we decide the priority of which debt we're going to pay off first. Okay. Some people like to try to pay off the highest balance first, or the lowest balance first, or the highest interest rate first. But a lot of people, that makes the most sense. But to tell you the truth, you're going to pay things off fast enough that the interest rate is really pretty much irrelevant. This is actually mathematically the fastest way to pay off your debt. So what you're going to do is you go down column 4 and you look for the lowest number. And then right next to the lowest number in column 5, you put a 1. And then you look for the next lowest number and you put a number 2, and so forth. How's it coming? We about done with that? Okay. Now, let's look up there on the screen. Can you see that okay? Can you see the numbers and things? Is it big enough? Okay. This is actually a case study of Joe and Susan Lucky. We call them Lucky because they found out about this system early on in life, and so they can build to that $1.2 million that we talked about. So they're getting out of debt, and we want to look up there at their priority number 1, which is Joe's car. It's what, 5th one down, whatever. You see that the monthly payment in column 3 is $212. So what we're going to do is take their accelerator margin, which up here you can see is $390, add it to the regular car payment of $212. You come up with $602, which you put in your margin roll-up, column 6. So you take the number one, the first priority, the first debt you're going to pay off. You take the amount of the normal amount of the payment, and you add to it your accelerator margin from B below, and you put that number in column 6. All right. Are we there? We got it? Okay. So now in this example, then, well, okay, what you're going to do is you take the balance of that loan and you divide it by the margin roll-up of number 6, and that'll tell you how many months it'll take to be out of to pay off that debt. Take the balance of the loan, divide it by the roll-up, the margin roll-up in column 6, and that gives you how many months it will take you to pay it off. Okay? Everybody with me? Now, for Joe and Susan Lucky, on Joe's car, they owe $7,250, and they're going to pay it off in 12 months. It's probably a 5-year or 6-year mortgage on their car, right? They're going to pay it off in 12 months. So then, what do you think they do after they get that first debt paid off? They roll it over to the next? Okay. No. They take the next month and they party, they celebrate, right? Here's the deal. They now have $602 that it is their accelerator margin, their roll-up margin. And yes, you take that $600 and roll it into your next debt. But you take 1 month off from your plan. You take that $600 and you blow it. What can you do with $600? If you're careful about the hotels that you go to, you can go to the beach for a 3-day weekend, right? And you can just have fun. You can party. You can blow off steam. You have worked hard for a year to get that car paid off. Go celebrate. Go reward yourself. And the cool thing is that if you've got kids, smaller kids, you can get them involved in this too, because quite frankly, it's going to take a little bit of pulling back on your finances to be able to do this, because you got to come up with that accelerator margin. You're going to be living a little bit more frugally. And if you have the kids involved too, and they know that, no, we're not going to do that because we're saving the money to pay the car off. But as soon as the car's paid off, we're going to the beach for 3 days. You know, get the kids excited about it, get them involved too. So you go celebrate with $602 or whatever your number is. Now, if you have something that your first one only paid off in 3 months, you probably don't want to do that. But you pick some point along the way, a year in or a year and a half in or whatever, when you make some kind of a major payoff, and you celebrate with that money. And then you get right back into the system. So then what they're going to do is take $602 is their margin right now, and then they go and look at number 2, and their payment there is $18, so their new roll-up margin in 6 becomes $620. And then they're going to be able to pay off that loan in 1 month. And then they take that accelerator margin, the roll-up margin, and they add it to the third debt, normal payment. And they just keep rolling it up. Is that making sense? Okay, so go ahead and work through that. This will take a few minutes. Go ahead and work through that until you get all the numbers in column 6. Now this section here is going to be a little bit more time consuming because you want to do column 6 and column 7. And then if you total up column 7 at the bottom, then that'll give you the exact number of months until you're debt free. Yeah, see, that kind of offsets the interest. When I said the interest is irrelevant, when you figure this out, by the time you get to your mortgage, it's paid down a little bit more, and that offsets the amount of interest that you've paid on the other things. I used to have a software program available where you could plug in all your debts, including the interest rate, and it would calculate everything to the penny and to the day when you'd be debt free. I don't have that available to me anymore, but this is amazingly accurate. It's probably within a month or two. So. Are you finished? Did you come up with a number? You want to volunteer that? Okay. Very good. as opposed to what if you didn't do this? Yeah. Okay. 49 months. Okay. And if you can lock your husband up. Yeah. Right. It's actually better if both partners had been here to hear all of this, but, you know, you'll have to be the ambassador for truth when you go home. How are we doing? Everybody there? Okay, so we got 49 months, we got 8 years. Anybody else want to volunteer? 9.5, okay. 8.2. 4.5. Very good. You know, many times when it's higher than 7 years, which is the average, it's because you don't have as much debt. Believe it or not, if you had more debt, you'd get out of debt faster. Why is that? Because you have a bigger accelerator margin. And so, you know, the higher your debt rate or your debt is, the faster you can get out of debt. That blew my mind when I understood that. But, you know, I mean, if you want to accelerate your payment a little bit more, if you can do more than 10%, it's completely up to you. You know, then you can get out of debt faster. Or if you can't make 10%, if you can only do 5%, you can still do it. It'll just take a little bit longer. Yeah. So. Okay, so now we've figured out the details and you know exactly to the month when you're going to be debt free, right? Is it exciting? Is it unbelievable? Yeah. So let's go on and let's look at a case study of Joe and Susan Lucky. And you have this page and it just says case study at the top. And sorry that one line is a little blurred there, but Joe and Susan Lucky, the example that we're looking at, they have a total household income of $47,000. Like I said, these numbers are a little old, but their accelerator margin is $390. They owe $108,000 and monthly payments of $1,230. They'll be debt-free in 7 years and 7 months. Now, by paying this off this way, you can see there, number 5, they saved $105,407 in interest by following this system. They saved $105,000. Right. Now, this is what's really interesting, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, including most financial planners. Okay, look at number 6. The interest saved equals 31% guaranteed return on investment. 31%. If they had invested their $390 accelerator margin in regular investments starting right from the beginning, like the traditional way is, and they're earning 10%, then it says here that they would have received, at the end of that 7-year period, they would have received $17,000 in interest in growth. But in order for them to their investment to give them an equivalent of $105,000 in interest growth, they would have needed to realize a guaranteed after-tax return of 31%, 31.32%. So for people that tell you, well, I'm getting my head ahead of myself here, but for people that tell you don't pay off your house, it's a good tax write-off. If you pay off your house this way, you're going to earn 31% in interest saved. That's money back into your pocket. It's the same as interest earned, right? How can that be when you only have a 5% or 6% or 4% mortgage? Any idea why that works? Okay, let's say you have a $1,000 payment, and especially early on in the mortgage payment, you're paying mostly interest. So let's say you pay $1,000, $100 of it is principal and $900 is interest. Now, what if you pay an extra $100? That extra $100, what it's doing is paying off the next month without paying the interest. So by paying $100 additional, you're saving $900 in interest for that month. Mind-blowing. And so it's more effective when a loan is young because you're paying more interest at the beginning. But over the life of the 7 years that it takes them to get out of debt, they're saving $105,000 in interest. Yes. Right. Right. Okay, so the big question everybody has, where am I going to find the extra money? Where am I going to find my accelerator margin, right? How am I going to come up with the extra 10%? I can't even afford to pay my bills right now. 10% is not possible. So where can I find my extra accelerator margin? First of all, don't buy brand new cars. A brand new car, as soon as you sign the paper, you don't even have to start it to drive it off the lot. As soon as you sign the paper, it's now a pre-owned car, and it has dropped probably $10,000 in value just like that. And many times, especially with the cost of cars nowadays, you have to get a 5-year or a 6-year or a 7-year mortgage on the thing. 8-year. And so if you try to sell it 2 years after you buy it, you're going to find out that it's depreciated more than what you've paid on it, and you've got to pay thousands of dollars just to sell it. And so you don't ever want to buy a brand new car. The best money for a car is a car that's maybe 4 or 5 years old, because it's depreciated sometimes almost half of its original value, and it still has most of its life left. Every car that we've ever bought, well, we got a couple of really good deals recently. We found 2, believe it or not, at the same time that were an 03 and an 06, and both of them only had like 60,000 miles on them. But yeah, most of the time we buy cars between 100 and 125,000 miles and drive them for another 100,000 miles without any issues.
And we don't want to lease a vehicle, because that's just renting, paying forever.
There was a book called A Millionaire Next Door that I read a number of years ago, and it was talking about the fact that there are millionaires all over the place, and you don't even know they're there. They live right next door. They live in a very moderate home. They drive 5-year, 8-year-old cars, and you don't even know they're a millionaire. And why are they a millionaire? Because they live frugally, because they don't live like a millionaire. And in that book, it said that less than 25% of millionaires drive current models. Less than 25% have new cars. And most have not purchased a car in the last 2 years. So they drive them, you know. You'd think, oh, you got $1 million, you're going to buy a new car every year. They don't. They just don't. 37% buy used vehicles. And the average purchase price, this was interesting to me. You think, oh, I got this money, I'm going to go buy a Ferrari, right? The average purchase price for a millionaire is only about $2,000 higher than the average person. So they're not going out and buying big cars, expensive cars. They know that it's not a good deal. It's not a good investment. And if they do buy a new car, they plan to drive it for a while. My grandfather that I told you about that lost his house to that $500 mortgage he had on it, he bought 3 cars in his entire life. He bought every one of them brand new, bought every one of them cash, and drove every one of them for 20 years. He had I can never remember whether it's a Model A or a Model T Ford. Model A. Okay, he traded that in on a 1950 Studebaker. He traded that in on a 1968 Chevy Impala, and the Chevy Impala was the one that he owned when he died. Now he did buy brand new cars, but he was planning to keep it for 20 years. So it made sense, and he paid cash. He saved until he could pay cash. But for the most part, buying a new car is just money down the drain. Okay, never buy credit life insurance. What is that? That's where you spend extra money on your credit card for credit life insurance, so that if you die, your credit card is going to be paid off, and then your spouse is not saddled with that. It's a total waste of money. Insurance companies have actuarial tables that tell them statistically how many people are going to die at what age and all that kind of stuff. And they know that statistically you're not going to die. So they offer this, and it's just free income for them. It's free income for them. So you need to do the same thing as the insurance company. Look at the actuarial tables and bet on the fact that you're not going to die and save money. It's a waste of money. Next. No extended warranties, same thing. Extended warranties, most of the time, is just money in the pocket of the merchant. And I think there's only one time I ever wished I had an extended warranty in my entire life. Most of the time, the warranty expires long before I have any issues with whatever it was that I bought. And then we have buy the right amount of insurance. What's the purpose of insurance? Some people think it's to get, so that your spouse gets rich when you die. The purpose of insurance is to just replace your income. So it should be enough insurance that if invested wisely will replace your income, nothing more. Anything more than that and you're just wasting your money on the premiums. So get the right amount of insurance. Avoid unnecessary insurance. Many times you have the coverage for the same thing in several different things. You go out and get roadside assistance, not realizing that your car insurance probably will give you 2 or 3 free tows per year. Double coverage, you don't really need it. You get a higher medical coverage on your car when you've got regular medical coverage anyway. Why do you need 2? Raise insurance deductibles. Same thing. Do the same thing as the insurance companies do and bet on the fact that you're not going to have an issue, especially with like medical. Now, if you have someone in the family who's chronically ill and needs medical insurance, then by all means do what you need to do. But for most of us who are healthy, the chances of us having something ongoing like that is not real great. And so you want to have catastrophic coverage, of course, if you get really ill. But you don't need something that's going to pay your doctor visit every time you go. So raise your deductibles and you can save money there. Yeah, well. Now, one thing I wanted to say from the beginning, I forgot. In finding your accelerator margin, you are not going to just say, oh, there's the $390 that I need for my accelerator. You're going to find $10 there, $20 here, $50 there. Every little place that you can save, you put it all together. And in all of these, you're only going to save a little bit, but when you put them all together, it could become quite a lot. So then the next one, eat out less. This is a big one. This is a big one. Every time Elizabeth and I go out to eat, we can easily, with a tip, we can easily spend $50 on the two of us without even thinking. And if we get dessert, $65. It costs a lot to eat out, and you can eat many times the same meal much cheaper at home. There are really 2 different situations for eating out. One is when you go out to eat in the evening for a meal, for a dinner. A lot of people do that at least once a week, if not more. But the biggest thing for me was grabbing lunch at work. I was a contractor. I didn't like cooking in the morning, breakfast in the morning, and I was usually running late anyway. So I would get up and go out, and I went to McDonald's for breakfast every single day for several decades. Now, that was not healthy for me. Physically, it was not healthy, but also financially, it was not healthy. So I would go to McDonald's for breakfast, and then for lunch, every single day, I would go out and do some sort of fast food, hamburger, McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, something like that. So I was spending like maybe $6 for breakfast, $8 or $9 for lunch, and then I would go out at least once during the day to get a snack or a coffee break or something. In the winter, I'd get a cup of coffee and something to nibble. During the summer, I'd get a Gatorade and something to eat, and I could easily spend $5 or $6 each time I did that. When I realized that I would add it all together, I was easily spending $20 to $25 a day on that kind of stuff. But when you just, it's only $5, it's no big deal. But when you do it 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, it adds up an awful lot. And what I discovered was that you have to plan ahead. But if I would plan ahead and have what I need from the grocery store, that I could make sandwiches, or many times the job site that I was working on had electricity, and I had a little portable microwave I could take with me and plug it in and heat up leftovers. And if I brewed a pot of coffee in the morning and put it in my thermos and take it with me so I wouldn't have to buy it, what does a cup of coffee cost now? Almost $2, But by doing that, I could easily save $10 a day without even thinking. That's $50 a week, $200 a month. That's right there, just by taking my lunch with me instead of buying out every day. $200 a month. That's a good way toward your accelerator margin right there. The next one, use grocery coupons. Grocery coupons are a pain in the neck, but they can save money. They can save quite a bit of money. So a little here, a little there.
It's a lot easier than sitting there cutting out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, cut down on conveniences. Do it yourself. We live in a fast food world, a convenience world where absolute instant gratification, conveniences. When I was a kid, no self-respecting man would ever pay somebody to change the oil in his car. Everybody did it themselves in their driveway. But now you go down to Quick Lube or something like that and you pay somebody else to do it. Well, it doesn't cost all that much, I'll grant it, but you're going to save money if you change the oil yourself. Mow your own lawn instead of hiring somebody else to do it. Wash your own car instead of spending $8 or $12 to go through a car wash.
Tell them about your barber.
Yeah, I'm saving money every month because my barber doesn't charge me.
He taught me how to give my military haircut.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And this is also very applicable to the food that we eat, because how many times do you grab something at the grocery store and you think, oh, it's cheaper than eating out? And it is, but it's some kind of a prepackaged frozen meal that is not as healthy for you as if you had gotten the ingredients and made it yourself. Yeah, it's fast. You just take it out, throw it in the microwave. But it costs considerably more than the ingredients that it costs, if you had bought the ingredients and made it yourself. Once again, it's a convenience. If you do it yourself, it's going to be cheaper. So, next one, minimize retirement plans. Remember the plan here: pay off debt first, and then after you're debt free, then you start investing. So if you're paying into a retirement plan right now, stop. Because remember, if you pay everything off now, you're going to earn that 31% return on your investment. That's much higher than you're going to get from a retirement plan. The only exception is if you are in some kind of a plan at work where your employee is matching your contributions, then you continue because you're earning a lot more because your money is being doubled right away. But unless you're in a situation like that, stop or minimize, do the minimum that you can for retirement plans. And anything else you can think of along the way to save $1 here, $10 there, and come up with your accelerator margin. Right. Yeah. So you can negotiate with them to cut down on your services, or many people will buy a whole upgrade package just to get the History Channel. So negotiate like you did to try to get the History Channel, or do you really need all of those extra premium packages on your cable? Just cut back to the basics for a while.
The other thing is if we keep on something that costs every month.
Another thing that I discovered, and this is not so much as coming up with an accelerator margin, but it does have to do with saving money, is that if you have a credit card with a high interest rate, let's say you got something that's got 19.4% interest rate. I've seen them as high as 26% or something like that. But you call them and say, I just found this credit card that has a much lower rate. I'm transferring all of my balance to the other card and closing this out unless you lower my interest rate. Many times they'll do that for you. So many times all you have to do is ask. So, okay. So we're going to go to the next one, the accelerator margin. Man, that's amazing how they just show up there, isn't it? The accelerator margin finder form, which you have here. Now, these next two forms you're going to do at home. Okay, we're not going to take the time to do that here. But I did give you the forms, and what you're going to do there is on part 1, which is what you're looking at here, you're going to write down all of your income sources from both partners, and this just gives you kind of an idea to help you find all of it. And then we go to part 2, and this is to help you find your accelerator margin. It lists a bunch of different expenses here, and you write down the current amount you're spending and how much you think you can reduce it, and then you come up with the $20 or $30 or $50 that you saved in the last column there, and then you use that to help come up with your accelerator margin. So, retirement contributions, we already talked about. Minimize them as much as you can. Saving, but dining out for lunch or lunches at work. Groceries, use coupons. Telephone, heating, turn the temperature down 2 degrees, and you can probably save $50 a month. Yeah. Right. Right.
The water saver things. Yeah.
And then, right. Anything you can do to lower your utility bill. Yep. And then down at the bottom, movies and video rentals. If you go to the movies all the time, video rentals are going to be cheaper.
So we talked to them, and they cut our
Okay.
garbage in half.
Okay. So
Pick it up every other week.
negotiating with the trash company because there's only 2 of you. Yeah, very good.
Ask about it. So they're not going to do it. They're
Right.
not going to put money in your pocket unless you ask.
I don't know what it's like here yet because we haven't been here long enough, but in Pennsylvania, when we got our property tax bill, if you paid it early, there was a deduction on it. It was like, how much percentage? 10% deduction on if you paid it in advance, and then there was the normal bill, and then there was the 10% charge if you were late. So we always paid it early so that we would save the 10% on our property taxes.
That was one of my funnest things, I think.
So bottom line here is that we need to get control of our finances. Many of us spend money and we don't know where it's going. And we get to the end of the month, and we get to the end of the money before we get to the end of the month, and where did all that money go? If you get a little booklet and you start writing down every single penny that you spend for a month or two, it'll give you a record of where it's going. And if you go back and look at it, you're going to be amazed at how much money is just slipping through your fingers, being wasted on stuff that you don't really need. And as you go through this form, look at every single one of your expenses and single one of your expenses that you don't even know about, like I didn't know about eating out and how much money I was wasting, and come up with your accelerator margin. Now, you don't have to live like a monk, okay?
This is supposed to be misery.
Yeah. You're going to have to cut back on your spending in order to come up with the accelerator margin, but don't cut back so far that you can't stand it. Because if you do, you're not going to stick with it for long, okay? Yeah. But you have to get control of your spending. Don't let life just happen to you. Take control of it. And that starts by finding out where you're spending your money. So keep track of where you're spending it for a month or two. And then, like I said, just pull back as much as you can, but not so much that you can't stand it. And you just say, forget it, I can't do this. And always keep the goal in mind. When in a year from now, when I pay off this car, we're going on vacation for 3 days. I haven't been on vacation for 20 years. And I'm going to be able to go on vacation, and I'm going to be able to do it cash without paying any finance charges, no credit. And how freeing is that? How guilt-free is that? Keep your goal before you. Take your form there that tells you how fast you're going to be out of debt and put it on the wall. Keep it before you. Yes?
When you start buying everything with cash, you wouldn't believe the discounts you
Yeah.
can get when you're going to go buy a car with cash.
A car or a house, you could save sometimes tens of thousands on a house if you can offer cash, which I know you can't do right now, but eventually in your future you will be able to if you follow this. But the point is, you pay cash, you can get discounts all over the place. So what we've seen here now is that you're putting in your debts. You find out how fast you're going to get out of debt. And like I said, you'll do this at home to be able to come up with the accelerator margin. Now, everything that I've taught you here today is the mechanics of how to work the numbers of how to get out of debt. And that's actually fairly easy to understand. It's fairly easy for me to teach you. Exactly, theory versus practice. The fact is that getting out of debt is more psychological and emotional than it is financial. And so we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the psychology of debt and why you need to get out of debt. So why 96% fail? This is the most important part of the seminar, and we're going to go there after we take another short break.
So there's the conclusion of part 2 of the seminar, and by now you know exactly to the month when you will be debt-free if you follow this system. Now, as I've said throughout the seminar, getting out of debt, how to work the numbers, the finances to do the roll up and all that is relatively easy to teach, and it works well if you follow it. But that's the problem, if you follow it. You see, the emotional and psychological aspect of this is really the much more difficult thing, because you may know how to do it, but will you? So in part 3 now, we're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about the psychological impact, and we're going to talk about really, truly the financial damage that credit can do to help you, to motivate you to stay on track. And really, part 3 is probably the most important part, because the first 2 parts showed you how to do it, but if you don't have the drive to actually do it, then it won't benefit you. So join me tomorrow for part 3.